The Adventures of David Perkins. Like, subscribe, comment. Hello and welcome to The Adventures of David Perkins. This time I'm cruising down the Nile in Egypt. I gave serious consideration to swimming it for a bit, but that would have made operating the camera rather difficult, so I decided to travel by boat.
Welcome the boat again.
Shukran.
Lovely day. Say Ya Rab. No, Ya Rab is a God. Ya Rab. They say what the God. Say this is Allah and Ya Rab. Ya Rab. Ya Rab. They say Allah. Ya Rab. Ya Allah and Ya Rab. This is for God.
The River Nile runs for around 6,500 kilometres from the Great Lakes of Central Africa north to the Mediterranean Sea, where the river discharges nearly 3,000 cubic metres of water a second. The river has two main tributaries, the White and Blue Nile. The White Nile is the headwater and primary stream of the Nile, with the Blue Nile contributing most of the water and mineral-rich silt. These two rivers meet in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, more precisely a few hundred metres to the right of the Sudan television headquarters. The river is, and has been, the primary water source for Egypt and the Sudan since the advent of their civilizations, and to this day the majority of both countries' populations live along the river's banks. The ancient Egyptians called the river Hapi, or on occasion Iteru. Hapi simply means river. Many years ago the River Nile ran a much more westerly course through what is now Wadi Hamim and Wadi Makha in the Gulf of Sidra on the Libyan coast. As the river silted up due to rising sea levels, the Nile's course changed to its present route, helping to create the northern Sahara Desert as we know it today. The deposited silt fertilised the land around the river, allowing the Egyptian civilization to cultivate notably wheat, flax and papyrus. The annual flood of the Nile Valley gave the Egyptians an advantage over other local civilizations of the time. Having a relatively stable water source gave the Egyptians food security and economic stability. The Egyptians even had a song called Hymn to the Nile. The 14-verse long hymn gave thanks to the gods for the continuing fertility that the river brought. Having a reliable source of water meant the Egyptians could keep large animals. Water buffalo were kept for agricultural work as well as a source of meat and leather. Some of the earliest evidence of cheese comes from Egypt. The tomb of Hor-Aha at Saqqara in the north of the country testifies to cheese production 3,000 years before the Common Era. The Egyptian word for cheese was mish, and to this day the peoples of Egypt make a cheese of the same name. Mish is made from a river buffalo cheese called al-Karish. The buffalo cheese is squeezed to extract the liquid, then given a layer of salt and placed in a clay pot. A mixture of buttermilk, sour skim milk and whey is then added to the pot. A small amount of mish from a previous batch is often added as a catalyst to fermentation. The pot is given an airtight seal and stored at an ambient temperature for at least 3 months, but preferably a whole year. Indeed, it is accepted to open the jar, remove some mish and add fresh cheese to the mixture. The cheese is said to be ready for consumption when its colour has changed from white to a yellowy brown. The Nile's importance to religious affairs cannot be overstated. Their calendar was set by the Nile's 3 seasons. Each season consisted of 4 30-day months. They were named Akhet, Peret and Shimu. Akhet, the inundation, was when the Nile flooded, depositing nutrient-rich silt. Peret was the growing season, and Shimu the dry season and harvest time. The god Hapi, with a little assistance from Pharaoh, was in charge of the annual floods. The lands east of the river were said to be the place of birth and growth, and the west bank being the way to the afterlife, mirroring the belief in the god Ra's eternal solar journey of death and resurrection. It is for this reason that the Egyptians of the time were buried on the west bank, to ensure admission to the afterlife.